So for the surgeons out there, I wanted to talk about why we need to be involved in machine learning and artificial intelligence in healthcare. So there's a lot of things that we do that basically are on vibes, and that's pretty common. So there are other specialties that integrate information streams, but they don't necessarily manage the downstream treatment, like shoot, no shoot decisions. So for example, in radiology, there's all this quote, correlate clinically. And even in pathology, sometimes their findings highly suggest, or in the normal case would lead to somebody getting an operation, but they aren't the ones that decide on the operation. So the challenge here is that when you're building these agentic, or not really agentic, but I guess autonomous systems that are going to replace doctors or whatnot, the rules upon which the system is based is not necessarily codified in a place that can be used for training data. So there's a difference between rules and decision. So decision is the instantiation of a rule. So for this particular patient, did we go to the OR versus maximal medical management? The rule is something like people who have rest pain or wounds get revascularization. But there's lots of reasons why we don't necessarily do that. And there's lots of areas where the data artifact that's used for training is either incomplete or just frankly inaccurate. So for instance, if you're training on incomplete data, which is pretty common because there's so many radiologists that are participating in model training, you might seek to make a system that determines if you go to the OR based on imaging findings. So sure, that might be easy to find for portal venous air, free air, intra-abdominal abscess, or something to that nature that appears in a predictable fashion on imaging artifact. However, there's lots of people that come in with abdominal pain, get a CT scan, and have equivocal imaging for which you are correlating clinically. And the challenge there is that what determines if we go to the OR is these hands. So, 8 to 80, blind, stupid, or crazy, you can get these hands. And basically, that is codified in the EHR under whether or not I say there's peritonitis or rebound tenderness or what have you. But there is no direct sensor that measures that. And once I've already put in peritonitis versus no peritonitis, I've decoupled the imaging finding from its implication, meaning that I don't document peritonitis on people I'm not taking to the OR unless I give an explicit reason as to why that's happening. Otherwise, I might go to jail. But to an independent observer or advisor, there might be no way of distinguishing what the abdominal exam is because there's no data that is the direct sensor for an abdominal exam. Again, the abdominal exam sensor is these hands. So that's just a real world example of why trying to allow autonomous systems to train on suboptimal data artifact doesn't make sense.